Hi everybody, my name is Jeff Bennion and I'm a lawyer and a portrait photographer based in San Diego. I wanted to talk about something that's a little bit different from what I usually talk about on my channel, and it's something that's kind of personal to me. And I want to talk about how psychedelic-assisted therapy saved my life. I had a pretty good law practice and I had a budding photography practice when the pandemic hit, and I was faced with a lot of struggles that I think a lot of people face during the pandemic, and I had a lot of other struggles that were specific to my own situation, and it caused a lot of problems in my life, and I don't always deal with my problems in a healthy way, and I kind of have a tendency to be a little bit destructive in the way that I handle things. So I had a friend of mine who had done some psychedelic assisted therapy, and he decided that he was going to become a guide, and he reached out to me and asked me if I would be willing to try it out with him. And it was someone who I trusted completely, who I've known for over a decade. So I thought, what else do I have to lose? I was the saddest I've ever been in my life. I was just in a downward spiral and I was surrounded by negativity. And I just felt like I couldn't get out of a hole. And the only thing that I could do was just do things that were not healthy to try to get myself out of the hole. And I was just digging a much deeper hole for myself. So I decided to do it, and we started with MDMA, which has a street name of Molly or ecstasy. But what I didn't know was the history of MDMA and the benefits that it had before it got shut down by the government. I did some research. I'm an analytical person by nature because I'm a lawyer. And I saw that there were several peer-reviewed articles on the benefits of psychedelic-assisted therapy, specifically with MDMA, and how there were veterans who had treatment-resistant PTSD, meaning that they did a lot of treatment for PTSD and just nothing worked and nothing made the PTSD go away. And they did one session of psychedelic-assisted therapy with MDMA, and after that they no longer met the criteria for PTSD under the DSM-5 diagnosis. So I saw there were just nothing but positive things that were posted about it, and I don't know anything about MDMA. I never went to raves, I never took ecstasy, I never experimented a lot with drugs. And so I just thought I would trust my friend and I would do it. And so I want to talk a little bit about what it feels like when you're doing this experience. So there's a whole ceremony involved in it, and you take the medicine and you begin to kind of feel it through your body, and you kind of start to move around a little bit, you get a little bit fidgety, and then you kind of have this period where it's working its way through you, and then that period stops, and you feel, when that's done, you feel just like really communicative. Now, one of the problems that I had before was I didn't ever want to take antidepressants. I didn't want to put a Band-Aid over my problems. I didn't want my problems to go away because they were my problems. I didn't want to just like talk to someone about my problems. I had a negative experience in the past when I was in law school, and I was going through a lot, and I went to a psychiatrist to get some antidepressants, and I just didn't like the way that it made me feel. I didn't like the way that I felt like a billable unit to the psychiatrist. And I just felt that my problems, they like shaped me and made me who I am. And particularly as an artist, You know, a lot of artists, they make their best art when they're working through pain, and I just didn't want to just erase parts of my past. I just didn't know how I would deal with that. So that was one of my biggest concerns, seeking any type of help. So so I did this, and what it felt like is, the best way that I can describe it is, imagine you have like a house and it's just like everything is messy and you can't function in this messy house, and then you just get all of the things that are out and you like fold it and you put it away where it belongs. And so that's kind of like what it does, is you have these problems and you just don't want to address them, and your brain has these certain defense mechanisms that makes you want to like avoid going down these painful paths to deal with the problems, and then it just builds up like scar tissue in your brain. And so you just don't deal with them, and you don't really understand the scope of how big the problems are and how they affect you, because your brain doesn't allow you to comprehend it. But it's there and it just gets in the way. So when you do the psychedelic-assisted therapy, what happens is it just lets you approach your problems without fear, without anxiety, without the need for those defense mechanisms that make you want to avoid those problems. And you address the root of those problems, and you don't, it's not like you're hypnotized and you forget about the pain and the trauma that you had, but it just allows you to deal with them and archive those problems away in your past so they don't get in your way in the future moving forward. And so I did one session in May of 2021, and then I waited a year when I had a lot of problems come back again, and I did another session in May of 2022. And at that time, it was one of the most profound experiences of my life. And I immediately felt, from the time that the session ended until today, I still feel the effects of that. And that's been about, it's been about a year. And I don't feel like it's wearing off at all. I have been wearing a smartwatch since smartwatches came out. And I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago they started measuring your stress levels. And I'm not sure what biometric data they collect to measure your stress levels, but mine, on a chart, it had always been like orange. So it's like 4 out of 5, where like green is the lowest and then red is the highest. Mine was consistently at like a 4 out of 5. And I just thought, oh, this must be broken. I have no idea what it's using to measure that. And the very next morning after I woke up, my stress level had plummeted down to a 0, and it stays consistently at a 0 ever since. The other thing that it did is, from the day that I did my first psychedelic-assisted therapy session, my heart rate, I also measured my heart rate with my watch, and it was consistently, it was like 71 beats a minute on average 2 years before, and then a year before it was 78 beats a minute. And then from the very day that I did my first psychedelic-assisted therapy session, my heart rate dropped down about 20 beats a minute. So it's an average of about 60, and now it's even in the 50s most of the time. And that just added years onto my life. So that's kind of what happens physically to you when you do it. Mentally, I can say I've never been happier in my life. just a fundamental change to everything in my life. It made me happier. It made me more present. It made me more receptive to like things that were going on. I wasn't worrying all the time about things that I didn't need to worry about. I was less anxious. I was never diagnosed with depression, but I had been diagnosed with depression in the past, and I, as a lawyer, have dealt with a lot of people in personal injury cases and brain injury cases who deal with a lot of issues like depression and general anxiety disorder and the likes. And I can say that I'm pretty sure that I suffered from really serious depression before my session, and immediately after, it was all gone. The moment that I woke up, and you just kind of feel just like really relaxed. And it has stayed that way ever since, about a year. And there's no sign of any of it coming back. And that was after one session. So another important thing that I want to say about the process is throughout the process, you are awake the entire time. My experience with things that I thought might be similar is maybe alcohol or like smoking and getting high, where you kind of just like drift away from your conscious self for a little bit and kind of dissociate from yourself. And that's not what it's like at all. It's like you have this period of time that's about an hour or 2 hours while the medicine is working its way through you, where you feel more present and you feel more in touch with yourself than you ever have been. It's like you take this medicine and it lets you use 100% of your brain and lets you just see the solutions to the problems that are there and lets you face them. There's not a single point during the session where I felt uncomfortable, where I felt like I was hypnotized or anything like that. You're 120% conscious throughout the entire thing, and I remember every single bit of it. I remember every instant of it. And one of the important things was I just had an absolutely terrific guide who helped walk me through the experience, because it's a lot of emotion coming at you all at once. And it is kind of a journey. That's what they call it, a journey. And to have someone who kind of can lead you down the path and help you make the most out of your experience, I would say is absolutely invaluable. I would not do it without someone who was a really trained guide, and not just someone who understands the science of it, but someone who is a really empathetic listener who can make you feel comfortable going through this experience. And so I can't recommend enough having a really great guide to do it for you. One of the after effects after I did it is I was notorious for drinking a lot of soda and energy drinks. I had about 2 energy drinks a day every day for about 10 years. Sometimes maybe 3 when I would lose count, but it was always like 2 energy drinks a day. I would also drink at least like 6 cans of soda every day. I woke up and the next morning I thought, okay, it's morning, it's time for me to have my energy drink. And I'm like, I can't do it. I just don't want to. I thought maybe later, like my stomach was just not ready for it. And I would drink energy drinks in the morning, first thing all the time, no problem. And then later on in the day, I was like, I don't think I'm ready for an energy drink today or a soda. And it's been almost a year since I've had an energy drink or a soda. It was just an immediate cold turkey without any symptoms of going cold turkey. I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand putting that stuff in my body. It just felt like poison. Also, I was never really a heavy drinker. I would drink just kind of socially with friends, drink a couple beers. I do have a liquor cabinet at my office, and I would occasionally do shots with people when they would come over. I would joke sometimes about how I like to have whiskey for breakfast, and I have my morning whiskey. And I woke up and I found out that I was not really able to drink alcohol anymore. I went from drinking maybe like 5 or 6 beers a month to like one. And if I would have a can of beer and open it and just like sip it while I was doing work or something, I would maybe be able to get through like half a can, and I would just say, I can't finish this, and I would just pour it out because I just couldn't put it in my body. But I was never a real heavy drinker to begin with, but that was something that was kind of surprising to me. About 2 months later, I started to really lose my taste for meat. And I was just at the office, and I'm like, okay, I have an appointment from like 9 to 12, and I have another one from like 1 to 4 or something. And I'm like, I've got to eat something in between because I'm starving. And I was just looking at the things that I'd usually eat, and I'm like, this just all looks like trash. Like I'm just not hungry for that. And I didn't even really notice at first that it was, the common thing was that meat was disgusting to me. But after about a week of that, I thought, like, why can't I eat meat? And I am, mind you, like a huge meat eater. I was a huge meat eater. I had a separate refrigerator in my garage for dry aging steaks. I won Freemason of the Year for my role in our annual barbecue that we would do, where we would barbecue about 400 pounds of beef for people. I've built smoke pits. I'm like an expert smoker and dry aging steak connoisseur. And I completely lost my taste for meat. I remember I was eating a cheeseburger, and I thought, I've got to do something. Like, I don't have time to fuss around. I'm hungry. And I took a bite of a cheeseburger, and I thought, this is gross. And I took another bite of it, and I thought, that's it. I'm done. This is the last time I'm going to eat meat. And that was July, so that was about 7 months ago. And I decided after that I was going to just go plant-based and just fuel my body with pure things, just pure plants and vegetables. Before that happened, I just had like this really strong pull towards fresh fruit. I would go into the produce aisle, and it was just like a shark smelling blood. I was just drawn to the produce, and I just wanted to buy all the fresh fruit and put it in my car and just like go into my car and just eat it like an animal in the car. And I had never really been like that before. And that's also something that's sustained with me all the way through. So I did have a couple of other psychedelic therapy sessions. I did another course with MDMA, and then I moved on to mushrooms, which was just a really spiritual experience doing a high dose with mushrooms. That also absolutely changed my life, but I feel strongly that you have to do the course of the MDMA treatment first to get yourself ready to be in a place where you can be receptive to the things that you'll learn about yourself when you do a therapeutic dose of psilocybin. But I remember it was in August of 2022, after I had finished my third course with MDMA, and there was a part where during my May 2022 session with MDMA, I felt like this energy inside me, and it was just like this really chaotic but like powerful energy, just like an electricity ball, and it was like in my chest, and I just felt like I was on top of the world. I felt like I was totally cured. And then when I was getting ready to do my first session with mushrooms, I sat down with my guide in his living room on his couch, and he asked me how I felt, and I told him, I said, remember, I said, do you remember when we were doing that session and I told you I felt all that power, all that energy, and it was just like this big raging ball of electricity. And I said that, I feel that same power, but it's so much stronger, and it's not a raging ball of energy. It's just a nice pink calmness that flows through my entire body from head to toe. And it is so much more powerful. And it's not a raging ball of energy. It is a really calm but extremely powerful power that lives inside me. And so I've done a couple sessions with MDMA now with a guide, a couple sessions of mushrooms with a guide. And after about a year of doing all of that, it has made me absolutely the happiest that I've ever been in my life. The most peaceful, the most calm. When I have things that come up in my life that would have actually just completely set me back, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, those things are just not problems anymore. I am much better at handling stress as it comes in. I see clearly now the path that I need to be on, and I just feel like I'm surrounded in positivity all the time, and I feel like when my brain starts to go down like negative paths, I can bring it back really easily. I know exactly what I need to work on, and I have a clear path, a clear plan on what I need to do for that for myself. And I I know exactly how to treat issues as they pop up in my life. So without a doubt, psychedelic assisted therapy has been the most profound, significant thing that I have done in my life. It has helped me more than anything else. And it's crazy too, just like the small number of sessions that you do, how it has such a profound and lasting and just deep into the core of your body experience. So the reason why I wanted to make this video and post it on my business page is because I'm not ashamed of it. I wish more people would do it. If you're my friend, I want you to definitely do it. If you're not my friend, I definitely want you to do it. I want people to know about my experience with it, and I want to kind of like get rid of the stigma that's associated with the psychedelic therapy. I mean, I didn't really have a whole lot of resources to look at of like personal experiences, and so I wanted to share mine. As far as like, well, aren't you just like doing drugs and stuff? It's like that just depends on how you define a drug and whose definition of drug you use. I mean, are you going to use the definition of the federal government, who classifies marijuana as a class 1 drug, meaning that it doesn't have any medicinal benefit whatsoever, and is the reason why it's classified like that because it's a threat to big pharma? I don't know, probably. Is that the classification system that I'm going to use? Is MDMA any worse than any of the 20,000 ingredients that's listed on a pack of Doritos? Is it worse than any of the active ingredients or compounds that are in like standard antidepressants that may cause dry mouth and all that other stuff and like sleeplessness and all those other things? Are those okay? Are those okay only because Big Pharma says they're okay? Like, do I let other people tell me what's okay to put in my body and what's not. Is it okay to put like natural plants and substances that have caused nothing but positive benefits in people? And I'm not talking about like the type of drugs that you take when you go to a rave, because those are usually not the pharmaceutical grade MDMA that you get when you're in therapy. Those are usually cut with like meth and caffeine and other things like that. And like I've never taken that, but I can tell you I've only had positive experiences with the pharmaceutical grade MDMA. And so is it a drug? I don't know. I mean, what if tomorrow the FDA said that chicken nuggets are a drug? Like, are you gonna stop taking chicken nuggets or something? Like, it's had such a positive effect on me, and I just want more people to do it, and I want more people to understand more personal experiences from it. So if you have any questions, you definitely feel free to reach out to me, and I'll respect any confidentiality from anyone who reaches out to me. I have had about 50 people, because I post about it so much on Facebook, about 50 people DM me and ask me experiences about it and how to get in touch with the community to have it work for them. And I'd be more than happy to talk about it privately or in the comments, publicly or whatever, with anybody. So that's it. Thanks for listening.